If you're using the web, you're using JavaScript. It's that simple. It is the engine that makes everything click, move, and update in your browser. But what you might not know is that a few years back, JavaScript got this huge, game-changing makeover. So let's dive into what that upgrade really means for how we all build the web today.
So where are we getting this from? Well, this whole breakdown is inspired by a guide from Alberto Montalesi. He looked around and saw that a lot of guides on modern JavaScript were, well, kind of tough for newcomers. His whole mission was to make these new features easy for everyone to get, and that's exactly what we're going to try to do right now.
Okay, so what's the big deal? When we say modern JavaScript, what does that even mean? We're basically talking about a whole new toolkit that dropped starting in 2015. And these aren't just minor tweaks. They fundamentally changed how we write code, making it safer, way cleaner, and a lot more powerful. All right, here's the game plan. We'll quickly touch on why this whole upgrade was necessary. Then we'll get into the good stuff: smarter variables, cleaner code, new ways to handle data, and how to finally tame asynchronous code. Let's jump in. So before this big makeover, JavaScript had, let's call them quirks. Yeah. Developers were constantly hitting these little annoyances, these pain points. You'd have variables just behaving weirdly, leading to these super frustrating bugs that were a nightmare to track down. The language was definitely ready for change.
Okay, let's start at the very beginning, the absolute foundation of any code: variables. This is where one of the biggest changes happened. We got two new keywords, let and const, to basically replace the old way of doing things with var. And the reason why this is such a big deal comes down to one simple but crucial idea: scope.
So what's scope? The easiest way to think about it is like a box or a container for your variables. Now, in the old days, variables made with var were kind of leaky. They could escape their boxes and cause all sorts of chaos and weird bugs. The new JavaScript gives us much stronger, more predictable boxes, and you're about to see exactly why that matters so much.
And here it is, the perfect example. Look at the left side. See how that variable declared with var just leaks right out of the loop? That is exactly the kind of thing that causes headaches. But now, look at the right. The let variable stays locked inside its container, that loop. It can't get out. This simple fix prevents so many accidental mistakes and just makes our code behave the way we expect it to.
So what's the modern rule of thumb here? It's actually super simple. Start with const for everything, by default. If you know for a fact that a variable's value is going to change later, then okay, use let. And var, just don't. Seriously, we can safely leave var in the history books. Okay, so our variables are now way safer. Awesome. Next up, how modern JavaScript helps us clean up our code and make it way easier to read. We're going to look at two upgrades you will literally use all the time: arrow functions and template literals. Just look at this before and after. It's night and day, right? On the left, you've got the classic function. It works, sure, but it's a bit clunky, a lot of extra words. Now on the right, that's an arrow function. It does the exact same thing, but gets rid of all the noise. No function keyword, no return, no curly braces in this case. It's just so much cleaner and, honestly, way faster to write. And here is another one of those how did we ever live without this upgrades. Remember trying to build a sentence with variables? It was this awkward mess of plus signs and quote marks, just clumsy. But now, with template literals, you use these backticks, and you can just drop your variables right into the string. It seems like a small thing, but man, it makes your code infinitely more readable. All right, our code is safer, it's cleaner. Now let's make it more powerful. Let's talk about a feature called destructuring. Now, the name sounds a little intimidating, but the idea is simple. It's a super fast way to pull stuff out of objects and arrays and put them into their own variables. It's a total game changer for simplifying your code. Check this out. The old way, on the left, if you wanted the first and last name from that person object, you needed two separate lines. It's repetitive. But on the right, with destructuring, boom, one line. You just write out the shape of what you want, and JavaScript does the rest, pulling out the values and creating the variables for you. It is so slick. And this is one of my favorite little tricks you can do with destructuring: swapping two variables. I mean, we've all done this before, right? You have to create a third temporary variable just to hold a value for a second. It's so awkward. Now, look at that. One single beautiful line of code. It's elegant, and it just feels good to write.
All right, time to face what a lot of people call the final boss of old school JavaScript, asynchronous code. What is that? Well, it's just when your app needs to do something that takes time, like grabbing data from a server. You can't just freeze the whole page while you wait. And the old way of handling this, well, it led to a very scary place called callback hell. And this right here, this is callback hell. Some people call it the pyramid of doom. And you can see why. It's what happens when you have to wait for one thing to finish before starting the next. So you just nest functions inside of more functions. Your code starts marching off to the right side of the screen, and it becomes an absolute nightmare to read, let alone debug.
So how do we escape this pyramid of doom? With something called a promise. And honestly, it's named perfectly. A promise is just an object that says, hey, I promise I will get back to you with a result eventually. It might succeed, which we call resolving, or it might fail, which we call rejecting. But either way, it gives you a way to handle that future outcome. And the real magic of promises is how you can chain them together. Instead of nesting deeper and deeper, you just tack on a dot then to handle what happens when things go right. And one of the best parts? You can have a single dot catch at the very end to grab any error that might happen anywhere along the way. It completely flattens that pyramid into a nice, clean, logical list of steps. So much easier to follow. So we've seen how all these new features directly solve old, frustrating problems. And when you start using them all together, it's not just a minor improvement. It's a totally different and much better way to write JavaScript. So if you take away anything from this, it's that modern JavaScript is just better. It's safer because we have block-scoped variables with let and const. It's cleaner thanks to things like arrow functions and template literals. And it's way more powerful, giving us amazing tools like destructuring and promises to tackle the really tough stuff. This whole makeover was a massive step forward for sure. But, tech doesn't sit still. JavaScript is always evolving. And that leaves us with a really exciting question to think about. What is next? What's the next big idea out there that's going to completely change how we build the web all over again?